Welcome to Animorphs Anonymous, the podcast where we casually discuss the Animorphs one book at a time.
I'm Kaycie.
And I'm Alex.
And we're going to talk you through the plot of each book.
But more accurately, take you on tangent trips, factoid forays, and say, well, actually, as much as possible.
Join us on the 1st and the 15th of each month, and we'll take you along on our mission.
And we promise to have you back under the 2-hour time limit.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army.
The tea has been spilled, or whatever the kids say nowadays. Tea is hot.
Oh, right? I thought this was a tea party kind of thing, like we're in the Boston Harbor, but now it's a different thing.
Throw that shit in the sea, because fuck taxes or something. I don't know.
So, something really interesting I just found out about this has almost nothing to do with whatever we're talking about. But the tea that they had in the Boston Harbor wasn't like tea bags or like loose leaf tea. They were like compressed bricks of tea leaves, and like one of those bricks could last a family for like 6 months or something insane like that. And so, like, when they were throwing the tea in the harbor, it wasn't like, oh no, we lost one shipment of tea. It was like they lost like $1 million worth of tea.
All right. Well,
very impressive. I didn't know until recently.
That makes the whole thing much more impactful. It raises the stakes, as it were.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool.
It's a much bigger fuck you.
It was a huge fuck you. It wasn't like a mild fuck you. It was like a gigantic, massive fuck you. There's also something to do with taxes on it. Like, I know they were protesting them, but there was something like tea was extra tax, so like it was worth even more. It was a whole thing. Breaking news. The Boston Harbor tea thing was a huge deal. Oh, God.
Well, this has been Animorphs Anonymous History Corner. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, and talking about the tea. And we're not going to stop. We're going to continue to talk about World War I and World War II.
Oh, no, but that was like 2 books ago.
But it's also this book.
Ugh.
Yay!
Let's continue to drill in the idea that Jake is an army general, as it were.
Yes, that is like, we didn't draw a clear enough line for you here, so now we're going to draw the line, draw it in permanent marker, and then highlight it, throw the markers down, and stare at you across from this book angrily until you get it.
Yeah, we were being too subtle before. Now it's time to get fucking literal with this shit.
We were far too subtle with every other book we've done. Let's hit you over the head with the violence now.
Oi.
Yeah, that's pretty much how this book goes, but I mean that in a somewhat positive way, question mark.
I was just reading this book and I was just like, I don't know how much more of this I can take. We're only halfway through this shit. And I'm just so broken inside.
I mean, I'll just keep telling you what I've been telling you since the series started. It gets worse. Yeah, I mean, we're over halfway through, if that helps. Barely, but we are over halfway through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like it. I don't. Leave those kids alone.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. Leave the kids alone, but also understand that they're not really like kids anymore. And I'm going to continue to refer to them as kids because that's what they physically are and should mentally are and should not be going through any of this.
It's like they're old souls.
It's almost like they're old souls.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I guess I just better start talking about this instead of talking around it.
Woo.
Jake opens up this book by talking about war and how intense war is. And he gives us the download on the Yerks and how they're taking over people's bodies and stealing their lives and all that shit. And then he talks about how this isn't like World War II, though, where there were battlefields. This is a secret war, and that's why it's different. And by the way, we're going to have a conversation at the end about the difference between World War I and World War II. So,
History Corner, part 2.
Yeah, which based on my explanation of like the tea revolt in the Boston Harbor, it's not going to go well. But here we are. So anyways, he gives us the rundown on morphing, including the dangers of it, like, you know, how Tobias got stuck in his hawk body and all the usual stuff that we need to know. This eventually leads to him telling us about his grandpa G. G stands for great, is his great grandpa, or if you go with how they've named him, Grandpa Great.
Grandpa Great.
Grandpa Great.
R.I.P.
Who once, when Jake was very little, told him that he had an old soul. Yeah. Jake didn't know what that meant then, but now he's like, I feel like I've grown very old because of the war. That's
just
chapter
tired.
1. He's just tired. He's just really
so fucking tired.
Just fucking tired. I get it. I'm tired. We're all tired. Yeah. So Jake gets home to his mom. This is where we like plop into the middle of Animorphs universe. Welcome to the street outside of Jake's house. He's probably walking home from school. It's fine. He gets home to his mom running out of the house and into a taxi, and she's crying. And Jake starts panicking like, oh my God, what happened to my dad or Tom? Are they hurt? Are they dead? What's going on? And Jake starts freaking out and gets a super squeaky high voice and is like, what's wrong, Mom? His mom like pauses from her shit show to let him know that she's on her way to catch a flight.
Shit show.
It's her shit show.
Her emotional expression, aka a shit show.
Oh, sorry. You're right. I shouldn't marginalize people's emotions about dead people.
She lost her father.
Technically, it was her
get it
grandfather.
together, Jake's mom.
It's his great grandpa. So, not that that makes us any better. Why did I say it like that? Oh my God, why am I so emotionally stunted as a person?
Ooh, okay.
Whatever. His great grandpa's dead.
It's fucking dead.
He's fucking dead. Life ends. We're all gonna die.
Oh my God.
Oh jeez. This went
harsh.
dark. This got real harsh real fast.
Oh, well, Jake does not have good luck with losing relatives as of late.
I mean, this one was of natural causes. Although, okay, I will say, this one was natural causes, but part of the note that his mom left on the fridge mentioned that he had a heart attack and died, and he didn't even get to finish his toast that he had just buttered. And I'm like, who writes that in a note on a fridge?
Yeah, that's weirdly specific. I don't even know.
She left a note on the fridge. We've already covered that. It explains to Jake what happened, but she's like, your great-grandfather died of a heart attack and his caretaker found him. And Jake's like, all right, walks into the house to read this note on the fridge, which had like an Apple magnet, which was very 90s. I appreciated that note. And then a minute later, Jake's dad and Tom burst in, and they're like mid-argument. Tom's fucking pissed. Jake's dad is telling Tom, like, you have to come with us. You cannot miss this funeral. What the fuck? And Jake's like listening in on this, like, why is Tom being such an asshat? And he quickly deduces that it's because Tom has a yerk in his head who needs to feed every 3 days. So Jake's like, how long will we be gone? And Jake's dad is like, 4 days. Tom looks murderous. Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. 4
Nice choice
days.
of words there.
Yes. So Jake de-escalates the situation by like telling Tom like, hey, it's actually, you know, the cabin's not so bad. There's a lake. It's relaxing. And Tom's just like, you're a fucking idiot, Jake.
Basically.
Pretty much. And then Jake's dad's like, how about we get a pizza? And Jake's like, if there's pizza, I'm in.
Because this is the 90s.
This is the
Pizza's
90s.
awesome.
Pizza's
Radical.
radical.
Oh my God.
But in his head, he's hoping for death to Tom's Yerk.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah.
The inner dialogue of, like, what are you gonna do now, Yerk? Huh, Yerk? Die, Yerk, you piece of shit. Like, throughout the whole book, I was like, calm down.
Fucking intense. The internal dialogue in this whole book is very intense.
And it's been seen before in Jake's books. Mm-hmm. Like, it's been kind of dropped as a little crumb trail, as it were. And now it's just, like, intensifying, and it's terrifying.
Yeah. And there's, I mean, I'll talk about this in a later chapter, too, when it's more relevant. But, like, it makes so much sense why this book would be like that. Why this would be the book where it just, like the floodgates just open. Yeah. So, after a terrible dinner where Tom did everything he could think of to get out of the trip because, 4 days, Jake's dad was just like, nope, you're coming. Don't be a dick. You have to come to this thing. And so Jake was like, all right, I got to get out of this tense house. And so he goes on a walk, and he just kind of automatically starts heading towards Marco's house. He was like, I really want to talk to Cassie, but, like, whatever. And then Marco sees him walking, and Marco yells, yo! And there's this weird, like, half-page dialogue where they're like, you say yo now? Like, yo is a thing that you do? That's weird. And Marco's like, well, I wanted to say, like, hey, beautiful, but thought you'd find that weird, so I guess yo is what it... Like, I don't understand.
So there was... that made me remember in, I think, Marco's David book... Mm-hmm. Where David's walking down the hall and Marco yells yo, and then he kind of goes, I'm not usually the kind of guy who says yo. So I feel like the ghostwriter, like, went back and, like, read some of the old books and then just, like, brought that back in. I don't know.
I feel like this ghostwriter was very dedicated to the series, and I believe this ghostwriter has written for us before. Let's take a quick look. It was... if I remember off the top of my head, Lauren Beatty Weiss.
Don't remember.
I believe that is her name. I will look it up for sure in just a second. But I do so believe that she has written for us before. And if only I could find... Yes, she did. She wrote the Squid book, Rachel's book, The Exposed.
Nice.
So this is the first time we're getting a comeback writer. Okay. And, yeah. And I think she did a good job with that book, even though I believe we rated it as our least favorite in that run.
Yeah, because I felt like some of Rachel's tone was off in that book, if I remember.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's when Jake did that stupid fucking thing that I hated, that I ranted about.
Yeah, and there's absolutely a few moments in this book that read like that, but I think she got Jake's tone much better.
Oh my god, she did a great job.
I agree. I think she did much better this time, and I think she really was just more familiar overall with the Animorphs universe in this book, because there's a lot of pieces from other books that, like, come back in this book. Uh-huh. So I really appreciated that. So I was glad to have her back on this one. Yeah. Yeah. And sorry guys, I know we didn't play the game, but Kaycie's iPad book spoiled our game. Yeah.
It says it right on the first page, and it's like, all right.
Guess thanks. We're doing this now. Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. Anyway, so Marco is apparently the kind of guy that would say yo. I think he just needs to rethink his whole I'm not the kind of guy that says yo. Clearly he is.
I'm not the kind of guy. This is a consequence of the war. He says yo now. What?
This is what he gets. PTSD makes you say yo. Oh shit. Yeah, whatever. So Marco says yo. Fucking weird ass conversation about that. And then Jake's like, my grandpa's dead. And Marco's like, oh no. And then they just walk back to Jake's house. And
oh no.
that was basically it. Like, Marco kind of sympathizes, but like, it was like kind of like, oh, and I killed my mom like a week ago.
Oh god.
Like, whatever, Jake.
He's no more fucks to give.
Like, Marco in this book has no more fucks to give. His fucks have runneth very dry.
Oh god. Marco and Jake in this book just like, mwah, chef's kiss. Let me do the chef's kiss and then say chef's kiss.
Well, obviously, that's how you have to do it. We're on audio here. I couldn't picture the hand if you didn't say chef's kiss.
What if I did like, mwah?
No, I need you to tell
me. That's still awkward. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
otherwise, it just feels like you're trying to kiss me, and I mean that's fine, but.
Sorry. Woo.
Oh man, we are suffering from something.
Yes, something's happening tonight.
Something has gone awry.
Yeah. Apologies. All right, so Marco,
no apologies.
No more fucks.
Marco, no more fucks. They go to the house, and Jake's like, oh no, I have a feeling something's bad. And then he realizes his dad's car is nowhere to be seen. He's like, well, that's fucking weird. And then, like, he's looking around like, oh god, this just feels off. And Marco's like, oh, you left them alone, didn't you? And Jake's like, motherfucker! I did leave them alone. So that's Jake.
I can't believe you've done this.
I can't believe you've done this, Jake. So he slams the door open in the house and starts yelling like, hello, but there's nobody home. There's only silence. So Jake goes to the kitchen to check for a note because we found out that Jake's family writes notes. And he doesn't immediately find one, but he notices the note on the fridge from his mom with the weird death details is askew. And then like something about the magnet falling to the floor. I didn't really get this part. It was a little confusing. And so Jake's like, whatever. He checks the garbage can, and sure enough, on top of like banana peels and all the shit they've dumped in there, there is a crumpled up note. So Jake takes it, smooths it out, and it's from his dad saying to Jake that like, hey, we just went to the sharing so I can explain to everybody why Tom can't be there over the weekend. And Jake starts freaking out, and Marco just like sweeps in, grabs the note, recrumples it, throws it out, puts everything back where it was. He's like, we need to cover our tracks. And then Jake's like, I'm going to call him. And he goes to grab the phone to, like, call Eric the cheat to be like, hey, you got to help us. And Marco's like, not your fucking house phone. We've been through this.
Oh, my God. This is basic shit, Jake.
Basic shit. Jake just loses his goddamn mind. And Marco is like, dude.
I fucking love this, though. Like, I love how, you know, Jake, when it comes to his family, he just, like, loses all sense of responsibility and logic, and he's just like a fucking mess.
Yeah.
Like, and Marco of all people is the one who has to calm him down in this moment.
I love it. And you know what? At first I was like, I don't know if Jake would be like this. Like, I feel like Jake is actually pretty good in situations where there's pressure. So, like, I don't know that he'd lose it this much. But then, as this author reminded me later in the book and brought it all back full circle, the whole reason Jake joined this war was for his brother. Because his brother was a controller. So, like, it makes total fucking sense that he would lose his shit.
Mm-hmm. And it made me think of back in Jake's first book when Marco first suggested that Tom might be a controller. Jake, like, punched him.
Yeah, he did.
Like, and Marco just, like, calmly threw a blanket over him and was like, dude, just listen to me. And I was having flashbacks to that scene in this scene, except it's much more, like, heightened and terrible and not funny. But, like,
yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot more mature now, for sure.
Yeah.
I still think the blanket trick would work, though. Man. Yeah, it's brutal. And, like, you can feel it when you're reading it. You can feel the tension just ramping and ramping as this happens. Yeah. So Marco's like, let's get outside. Let's get to the payphone. We can't do this in here. So they run to the nearest payphone, which in the 90s, I'm assuming, wasn't that far. And now it's very far. And they call Eric, and Eric is also at a loss. He's like, what do you want me to do exactly? And he's like, we can't, like, stop them. We're undercover. And Jake's like, oh, my dad has a cell phone. And both Marco and Eric are like, no, you can't call his cell phone. He'll know it's you when you talk to him. And then Eric, I think, is the one that says something like, well, you don't have to talk. Just call, let them talk, and we'll try to triangulate them. And they're like, okay, great. So
that's how the police do it.
That's how the police do it. I don't think that's... Well, it might be how the police do it. There's probably multiple ways.
The FBI, like tracing a call?
Yeah, but normally they just wait for the person to call and just tap the line. I don't think they, make fake phone calls to people and just sit breathing on the other end of the phone. That's like serial killers, not FBI.
I'm thinking of that scene in National Treasure when they made him call the people. Or no, the people called him and then they tapped the line. I don't know. Fuck it. Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they steal the Declaration of Independence.
They can do anything.
That's not realistic. I don't know what is.
Oh, Christ.
Man.
Oh, no. I have National Treasure as my point of reference.
Yeah, it's... I want to say that's my point of reference, but, like, I can't even watch National Treasure, and the movie... Okay, I can enjoy it objectively, but the movie gave me such anxiety for escape rooms for so long, because I thought they were going to be like National Treasure, and I'm like, that's way too hard. I don't know any facts.
Oh!
And now I love escape rooms. I think they're great, and I feel like Nicolas Cage really clipped my wings for a long time.
So there is an escape room in the town that I live close to, and it is kind of like the Founding Fathers themed.
Oh God!
So when you come visit me, we could go do that, and you can
be so stressed.
Live out your anxiety.
Wow, this is my nightmare.
Oh, my nightmare! American history. How do?
They're gonna be like, what bell has a crack in it? Patriotic. Fuck! It's the one like freedom, goddammit!
The freedom bell. Anyway.
The freedom bell. It's, the one with the life and the pursuit of happiness. What the fuck? Sorry. Anyways. Oh, Jesus. So... Tom picks up the phone because Jake's dad didn't pick up the phone. I assume because he was driving, and he's like, let's be responsible. They're like, the PSA land is back, but not really.
Thank you. Don't drink and drive.
Don't drink and drive. Don't.
Yeah.
What's the one? The phone one? The put it down? Something like that?
Put it down, don't drown. No. Let's turn around, don't drown.
Wait, what? Turn around? What is turn around,
don't drown? Turn around, don't drown. So, I don't know. It's something to do with flooding. I should probably learn that.
Is it a monsoon? Wait, like when a tsunami comes in?
Or like
don't
a hurricane.
Follow the water.
Yeah, it's something to do with if you see some form of water doing something, just turn around. I don't know.
It's got to be receding. Never follow receding water.
Yeah, because it'll get swept away.
Yeah, because it comes back, and you don't want to be there when it comes back.
Watch out for cars.
Watch out for cars, yeah.
And power lines and shit. Anyway.
Yes. It can wait, I think, is the phone one. It's better left unread than dead. Better unread than dead. There you go. So,
thank you,
anyways.
New Age nursery rhymes.
Yeah.
That have obviously stuck in our skulls.
Oh, man. There was one, not to derail us further, but there was one that I was driving my non-United Statesian or North American coworkers. And English is not their first language. And, like, there was one thing on the highway that was, like... It was like this weird, like, you know how they always do those, like, funny sayings that are actually PSAs? Like, you know, whatever. But they had one that was, like, about cell phones specifically. And it was, like, some, like, supposed to be cutesy little joke that basically said, don't use your cell phone. And one of them turns to me and they're like, what does that even mean? And I'm like, oh, it's just, like, a sign that says, like, don't use your cell phone. And they're like, why? Like, you're still reading a sign. Like, what the fuck? It's like, I don't
Still
know.
distracted driving.
Right, hey. And then a lady almost careened into the side of us, so hey!
Hooray!
Anyways, right. They don't drive distracted. And then Tom, after he picks up the phone, he's like, yo, what's up? He probably doesn't say, yo, we established already that's bad.
They don't do that in these books.
They don't do that in these books. And Jake, opens his mouth to say hi back, just, as a reflex. And Marco's
like, nope.
The phone away. Marco's like, you idiot. Come on.
He keeps fumbling so much.
He fumbles a lot in this book. And then he gets scared about fumbling, and then he fumbles again.
Yeah. I guess sometimes it is a little unbelievable now that you mention it.
Yeah, but I didn't want to push on that aspect, but here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few moments where I was like, why is this happening? But who am I? Who am I to judge?
Who am I?
So anyways, Marco listens for a moment, and then Tom hangs up because nobody's saying anything, and Eric's like, I can triangulate their location to a large part of town that is 0% helpful. And he's like, yeah, there's some stores, there's a mechanic shop, there's a mini mall, and there's 75 houses. And Jake's like, that's so many houses where they could be. And Marco's like, well, just play the odds and pick one. And Jake's like, all right. And he tells Eric to get Rachel and the others, and then hangs up. He's like, there will be time for thank yous later if his idiot plan works. So they start morphing. Jake goes to Peregrine. Marco goes to Osprey. And Jake's like, bye, Marco. I'm going to leave you because I'm faster. And Marco's basically like, Jesus Christ, whatever. So he stops Jake for a second. And Jake thinks he's going to say something be careful or something like that. But Marco just goes, we're with you. And I think that was a very sweet moment after Marco's last book where Jake took that choice out of his hands. Yeah.
Marco's just taking all this rage and abuse from Jake and just kind of diffusing it. And it's just oh, champion.
Yeah, I appreciate it so much after Jake in the last book did not let him make that horrific move and kill his mom. It's really, I don't know if Marco thought he'd be paying it back this fast.
Yeah.
But, yeah. But it keeps getting better. Marco keeps getting better because Jake flies up as high as he can possibly go because he knows from Tobias that altitude equals speed. So he goes as high as he can and then goes into a dive, and he's going faster than he has ever gone before. So we know probably way over 200 miles an hour. He is speeding for sure, but he's not texting, so it's okay. But yeah, so he's careening down towards the earth, and he kind of levels out and buzzes as many locations as fast as he can to see if he can spot his dad's car. And eventually he does in a parking lot of the mini mall. And he lands. He starts demorphing, and Marco is right behind him. He did not go faster than Marco, really. He did, but he didn't. So Jake has started going to Tiger Morph, and Marco is like, no, dude, I got this. You just stay here. Don't do this tiger bullshit. I got this. He's like, you're too close to the situation. And so Marco starts going to Gorilla and says something about I'm going to play Rachel's part right now. And so Marco lumbers over to these cars in the parking lot, just walking over there. I'm assuming belly out like gorillas do. I don't know why. It's just
cute.
I know, it just seemed kind of cute, walking on two legs. Yeah, I'm ready.
His arms swinging.
His arms swinging around, holding his little belly out.
That's so cute.
And he just starts picking up cars by their bumpers and dropping them so the alarms are blaring. And he does that to a few cars, and then he sees Chapman's car. So he just walks up and punches in the fucking door. He's boom, leaves a giant hole in the side of the car.
Oh,
and then he walks over to Jake's dad's car and just takes his arms and slams them down on the hood. And he's like, good enough, and walks off into the night.
Jake's like, hey, that's our car.
Right. And he was like, yeah, I know. That's right. So a few seconds after that happens, people start streaming out of all the nearby businesses, which included a Starbucks, and like a vintage store is where Chapman and Tom and Jake's dad come out of.
I like to imagine they're wearing like vintage scarves and stuff. Like they were just standing around the store having this meeting and they're just like trying shit on.
Oh my God. Like purple fuzzy suit coats and like large hats.
Yeah. Like sunglasses and shit. Aw, it's funny.
Kneeboards and keyboards. Man. They probably got some sweet ass kicks with the Velcro. Anyways, that's thrift shop, not vintage shop. Vintage shop is different, I imagine. Anyways. Is right. So anyways, they come out. Jake's dad sees his car, and as soon as he sees it, how fucked up it is, he like runs over, drops to his knees, and is like, my baby, someone hurt my baby.
No.
No, my toxic masculinity says I must care about my car more than my children.
Damn. This is a deep cut.
Was it?
No.
Tom desperately tries to convince his dad to get back into the meeting, but, again, his car. So Jake's, like, just hiding out watching the situation, like, motherfucker, what do I do? But Tom's like, this is proof enough that he is not a controller yet, because Tom is desperately trying to get his dad back into the room. And then Tom just, like, fucks all off to go back there, and Jake's dad's, like, dealing with the car. So Jake's like, oh man, we did it. All clear. He's not a controller. And Marco goes, this is only round 1, right? And it's like, no, fuck it is. And then we cut to Cassie's barn to discuss everything that just happened. And Rachel is enraged for an entirely separate reason from everything that just happened here. And I wrote a lot of notes about it. And it really doesn't matter to anything. But here's what happened, because it apparently was important to me. She's enraged because she got the call from Eric. She was the closest backup, being at the mall, which was nearby. So she tried to rush over there, but first she stowed her packages in a locker at the mall. She forgot to lock it in her rush, made it there, just saw everybody filling out police reports about the broken cars, so she flew back to the mall, goes to get her shit, and all of her shit was stolen. So she's just, like, mad at Jake because of this.
Oh.
And we will never mention that again.
Hooray.
So yeah. She was just mad, and she just gets mad at Jake, who is attempting to defend his decisions, even though in every other part of this book, Rachel's kind of on his side. This one she's not, because the packages, remember?
Her shit that she bought got stoled.
Her shit she bought with her own parents' credit card got stolen.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And then, okay, sorry. Then let's turn this car around to fucking depressing as Shitsville. Because Tobias goes, I don't understand why Tom just doesn't say he's not going. And everybody looks at Tobias like, buh? And Tobias is like, oh, that's right. My family didn't care about me or give a single fuck what I ever did. And they're all like, yeah, exactly, Tobias. Moving right along.
Oh my god, baby.
I know. It was, and like, it was just like a mention.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's right. Tobias's family fucking sucks.
Oh. I want to give his little bird form a hug. Except he'd hate it.
I know. He was just genuinely confused.
Oh.
Yeah. And like this goes on and on, this sort of bullshit talk about other characters that has nothing to do with Jake. And eventually it leads to Rachel just very angrily summarizing, like, if your dad doesn't let Tom leave for less than 3 days, then your dad's gonna die.
Wow.
Yeah.
Side note.
Yeah.
So, is it Jake's dad and Rachel's dad that are brothers?
Yes.
Okay.
They mentioned that it's it's on their dad's side, and that's why Rachel didn't have to go because great-grandpa was Jake's mom's great-grandpa, so she didn't know him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is the family tree.
And her family, after the divorce, drifted away from Jake's family because her dad left. Okay, got it.
Right.
Whee!
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And it was like, yeah, we get it.
Wait, okay, so, sorry.
Yeah.
So, fucking, not Chandler. Who's the kid?
Sadler.
Sorry, rest in peace.
Chandler. Could
So-
you be any less sympathetic?
I'm sorry. So, I almost said Chandler again. God damn it. Sadler was Jake's cousin and Rachel's cousin.
Yeah.
So, was there a third sibling? Or, oh god. I don't even know. We don't have to get into this, but I'm just confused.
No. I mean, there's probably right, but I don't really know if he's like second cousin. I thought he was maybe second cousin, something like that. I don't really know. Like, I don't think we ever explore that far into that part of the family tree. Like, if it's mentioned, it's not mentioned overtly enough that I could tell you, like, oh, yeah, there's 3 siblings, and this was blah, blah, blah's kid, and so on and so forth.
I'm sure somebody's made a family tree on the fan wiki or whatever, but I'm not going to look for it.
I'm sure. I'm not going to look for it either because,
I just don't care.
Shit. There's other things happening that are just more important. Like jelly.
But this is Animorphs Anonymous, where we dissect the little things.
That's true. The little unimportant things. I don't know. I would guess... I have to remember how cousins work first. Like, I know how cousins work, but, like,
How is cousin formed?
How is Babby formed? To be both Jake and Rachel's cousin, it would have to be on the dad's side. So, yeah, there's gotta be a third sibling and or... second cousin, meaning then there would just be above that 2 siblings. So then I mean, I don't know. Second cousin would make more sense, but I think they just said cousin. So yeah, there's a third one in there somewhere.
The mysterious brother, sister,
third
whatever.
one. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So that's that. Yeah, so Jake's like, the only way to keep my dad safe is constant surveillance. So he calls into school the next day, pretending to be his dad, gets himself excused for the day, and he's like, the others would be helping with surveillance, but I think I should do most of it. So he morphs to Cockroach in the dining room because he's so fucking responsible right now.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
This boy.
He's just not thinking this through. So he's like, my best bet is to stay with my dad all day. And he's like, I'm going to ride into the cuff of his pants to work with him. But this dream is shattered, just like the jar of jelly that his dad dropped on the floor.
Oh my god, you messy fuck.
He smashed that jelly everywhere.
He threw it on the ground.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like... do you feel like Fly would have been a better morph? Like, Jake said he didn't pick Fly because he'd had a bad experience. But do you think it would have been better in this situation?
I think they're really starting to enjoy the, how kind of invincible cockroaches are.
Yeah.
I don't know that Fly would have been vastly better than Cockroach. Like, I think they both have their pros and cons.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not judging his Cockroach decision. I think that's fine. Fly would have been fine too.
But like, I feel like every time they're cockroaches, somebody sees them and is like, oh!
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing that we really never know is exactly what kind of cockroach they are, because like again, because it was the 90s probably, I always imagine, like, you know, there are these giant
The
cockroaches.
big, like, Madagascar hissing cockroaches or whatever.
Right. I mean,
the
they say
Fear
they're,
Factor
like...
ones.
I mean, kind of, but, like, I just imagine those, but, like, an inch long, and, like, that's kind of it. But, like, the cockroaches that are in your house and stuff, they aren't that big. Like, they're really not. So, I don't know.
Relatedly, I'm not great at entomology. That's right? The study of insects.
Yes.
But I'm pretty sure I killed a cockroach last night. But it was like climbing on my wall in plain sight.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, that doesn't seem very cockroach-like behavior. But I think it was a I don't know. It looked like one.
I've never seen them in my house, but we had them. There's like a variety that is common outside, like in gardens and stuff. And we had those at the barn. Mm-hmm. And like those were always much smaller than I ever imagined them to be. But yeah, I mean, if it's a garden cockroach that got inside, I think those are no big deal. But like if you have cockroaches, then you probably have like 1 million of them. But I think you see their droppings and stuff. Like it's very, their droppings are very visible. Yeah, and obvious. Yeah.
Yeah, well. Sorry, I keep derailing the conversation.
I mean, hey, we've only got 7 pages of notes together. No, I'm kidding. That's fine. Yeah, I don't know. He's a cockroach. It's great. His dad sees him because he gets stuck in some jelly. And then his dad starts trying to stomp him to death in the jelly. So, I mean, this just sounds like a disaster. Jake finds a shard of glass that's sticking out of the jelly and uses it to get some traction. He unsticks himself. And he runs onto his dad's shoe. And his dad sees this happen because he's not a totally blind idiot. And starts trying to stomp him off of his shoe. And Jake is just like, oh my god, what the fuck is happening? Tries to climb into the inner part of his dad's pants. And his dad, of course, like is like, where did it go? And he's like quiet for a moment. But Jake is covered in jelly, and the cockroach is like, hell yeah, jelly, and so starts eating it, and Jake's like, fuck, I lost control of my jelly body. And then his dad, like, felt the mouth parts moving, which again led me to believe that he was a very large cockroach.
Sure.
And his dad freaked out and, like, starts, like, shaking his leg everywhere. Jake willed himself to stay perfectly still. And his dad, like, lifts the cuff of his pants to look at his leg, but Jake was safely hidden away. So his dad, like, just lets it go, cleans up this mess, and leaves for work.
I like to picture his dad, like, high-pitched screaming.
Like,
And then being kind of embarrassed about it once he calms down. Just straighten his tie and leave.
I mean, I just keep imagining, like, that would be hilarious. But, like, also just imagine the kitchen around him, like... He's trying to stomp a bug that is caught in jelly that is all over his floor.
And glass shards.
And glass shards. And he's just stomping through it, like spreading jelly and glass everywhere. Ugh. There's so much jelly.
God. Steven?
Too much. Too much jelly.
I don't know Jake's dad's name.
I don't know. He's covered in jelly. Ugh. So, yeah, that's that. The ride to Jake's dad's work was uneventful, thank God, and they arrive without further trouble. As the car starts pulling into the parking garage, Axe calls out to Jake, saying, like, I believe I recognize your father. And then Jake and Axe have a minor tiff because Axe says something like, you've gone around twice and you have ascended to the 2nd floor. And Jake is like, yes, Axe, those are ramps. They help cars go to upper floors. And Axe makes this very, like, yes, Prince Jake, I deduced easily what those were for. Like,
that was a really interesting exchange.
Yeah, tell me your thoughts.
So, I mean, I know Jake is stressed and kind of snapping at everybody, but I thought he was, like, a little overtly aggressive to Axe. And Axe responding very, like, sarcastically was a little jolting for me. But, I mean, so it's, like, it's a combination of, like, he has respect for Jake because Jake is his prince, but also Jake is a stupid human and he is a superior Andalite. So I guess it kind of makes sense that he would respond with like, yeah, I got it. But I don't know. It's weird. I don't know how I feel.
There's a few moments like that in this book. This was the least understandable of them all.
Yeah, like later they have an exchange and I completely understood that one. But this one was kind of like, okay.
Yeah, this one was a little weird.
Yeah.
But also, Jake did just try to mansplain parking garages to Axe. You cracking up is cracking me up.
Oh, God. Amazing.
Ugh, fuck. Yes, Tobias shows up very quickly after. Tobias was basically like, yeah, I saw you guys leave the house and I just flew straight here. And Jake's like, oh, cool, I guess, whatever. So they head into his office in this parking garage, and both Axe and Tobias notice an angry-looking bearded man on the way into the building. But the guy doesn't make a move. You're an angry bearded man?
Yeah.
Nice. One day. Anyways, one day I'll grow one.
Oh, God.
Anyways, he goes into work, and we find out I think we already knew he was a pediatric doctor from an earlier book. And then there's a weird aside from Jake where Jake's like, but he's not my doctor. That would be too weird.
Yeah. I don't know. Am I missing something?
I mean, what do I say to this? Like, not at his current age, I guess, but like once he gets to be more towards a teenager and he has to ask things like, why do I get random boners? Or how does sex work? Like, I don't know. I guess that's awkward.
I guess.
I mean, I understand why, just based on like morality. Why?
Yeah.
Like, I get it.
It's weird if like your teacher is also like your parent and stuff. Like the whole, I don't know.
That's right, because then when you nerd call the teacher mom, we don't get to make fucking fun of you for calling the teacher mom.
I remember, I think my kindergarten teacher had her son in her class and everybody made fun of him. Even though I don't think there was any like overt like preferential treatment or anything. But still, it's like, I don't know, it's weird.
It's just weird. So this is like that, this is not at all like that, but here's a weird example. Do you remember that teacher that we had in college that was only teaching at college because he had followed his daughter up through every year of school so he could teach the grade she was in?
Oh, was that fucking terrible science teacher?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
We got fired.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I retroactively feel a little bit bad about that, but also he should not have been teaching college science.
Listen, every time I drop hundreds of dollars monthly on student loans, I do not feel bad about that fucking education.
True. That is so true.
We should get all of that money back.
Yeah.
So.
Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, I would have felt worse if it was like high school and it wasn't my money.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I can see why Jake's dad wouldn't, like, even from the perspective of Jake's dad, him being like, oh, I can't have my sons as my patients. Like, that's just not okay. That's crossing a weird line.
I'll write you all the prescriptions you want, son.
ADD, ADHD, all of them.
Valium, you got it.
You want 30 days of antibiotics? Fine by me. I don't know why. Okay, why did I go for those 3 prescriptions? You went to Valium, which makes fucking sense for a prescription you're trying to steal. Why did I go to antibiotics and ADHD medication?
I don't know.
I have a very strange criminal history. Yeah, I don't know, whatever. So he's not Jake's doctor. So Jake has never seen his dad work through a day before, is what this is getting at.
Sure.
And so Jake focuses on his dad's work, and because there's also not much else to really focus on other than, getting to the bathroom to demorph and morph every couple hours. But he was just focusing on his dad dealing with the parents and the kids, and he decides that if nothing else happens in his life, he would be happy if he just grew up to be like his dad, who is a kind and decent person and treats everybody with respect and is just generally nice. And Jake doesn't feel the need to be a hero. He doesn't feel the need to fight. He just wants to be good to people.
Aww.
And it was this very, very sweet moment with his dad. And after that, long day of observing, Jake's dad leaves the office and he tells, a final dad joke before leaving.
I love Jake's dad.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Just a nice dad. Yeah, whatever. So they leave. They leave the office on the dad joke. And Axe and Tobias are still chilling outside. And they warn Jake, hey, the bearded man is still waiting. So Axe is demorphed behind a dumpster in the garage at this point, and he tells Jake he can get to the bearded guy, but he can't move without being seen. And Jake's like, well, if an Andalite just shows up, the Yeerks will probably piece together that something's wrong and that they're here because they're observing this guy, and there's probably a connection there, and, they'll figure it out. Right. And Jake's left with this decision. Does he sacrifice his dad, or does he sacrifice his team? And so he freezes. And Axe and Tobias are like, Jake, what do we do? What do we do? And then he's like, I got this. And so he figures out a plan really quickly where he runs up the back of his dad's suit. And he's like, am I looking at the guy to whoever? And Axe is like, yes, you're staring dead at him. So Jake uses his stupid cockroach wings to fly at this guy who's following his dad and now only a few feet away. And he lands on the bearded man's face, and the guy just starts freaking the fuck out, like, blah, there's a bug, and, swatting at his face, and Jake's, crawling in this guy's beard, and,
Ew.
He's just, freaking the fuck out. The next thing you know, a hawk flies in, despite Jake going, no, when Tobias is, incoming, and grabs the toupee off the top of this guy's head and flies away with it, because a lot of people apparently wear toupees in Animorphs verse.
Yes.
So many toupees. And then Jake was nestled into that toupee, so he goes flying off with Tobias. And Jake starts yelling at Tobias because he's like, well, you might as well just have announced the Animorphs are here and tattooed it across that guy's head and blah, blah, blah. But it turns out that this was a lucky maneuver because the guy, as soon as his toupee is gone and the bug is away, he's like, forget the birds and the bugs, man. You're parked in my spot. And it turns out that this guy isn't a controller trying to get to Jake's dad. He was just pissed because Jake's dad stole his completely unreserved parking spot in a public garage.
Jake's dad is just so, chill with it. He's just like, whoa, calm down. I wasn't aware.
This isn't marked. Your name's not on it. And the guy's like, I've been parking here for 2 years, 4 months, and blah. He just goes nuts.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that didn't go well. Yeah. But whatever. Anyways, after this fight occurs, Jake makes it home with his dad, and as soon as the car pulls into the garage, Jake runs out and demorphs when his dad isn't there. Then he runs upstairs, jumps under the covers, because Jake's like, my dad'll be delayed because he checks the mail, and he just stands there going, Bill, 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 oh, magazine, Bill, Bill. I just can picture it so clearly. But as soon as Jake jumps into his bed and pulls the covers up, Tom opens the door to his room and asks him, are you faking sick? And Jake realizes, he had no idea that Tom was home, and he morphed downstairs, and he might have fucked up majorly. But it turns out Tom just came into his room to be a dick and then leave. Yeah. So we cut to dinner that night where Jake has chicken noodle soup for his tummy, and Tom and their dad have Chinese food for their not tummies because they apparently don't give a shit how their tummies feel. But after dinner, Tom storms up to his room, and their dad reminds them nicely, like, hey, don't forget to pack and include your suits. And Jake's like, oh, okay, Dad. So Jake's dad's like, I have to go water the lawn, which, again, is a distinctly 90s thing. Like, nobody waters their lawns anymore. Ever. And Jake's like, oh, I can do the dishes. And his dad's like, weird, but okay. I'll accept your offer. But it's so he can watch his dad water the lawn through the window. After a while, Jake sees Tobias soaring above his house, and Jake's like, oh, cool. I'll finish these dishes and go join Tobias. So he does. He runs upstairs, morphs to Peregrine, hops out his bedroom window, and then he and Tobias start chatting for a while. And then suddenly Tobias spots Chapman and a stranger in a car a few blocks away, and they have a gun. A gun.
This is not a drive-by.
Should I know that song? Oh, I do know that song. I just didn't piece it together.
I almost said Maroon 5. That is not correct.
No.
Train.
Train?
Train.
Anyway.
Anyway.
Train. That's chain. Anyways, we're having quite a night.
Song
for
references.
Songs. Imagine Dragons. Anyways, have I never told you that story?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Here's a weird aside that hopefully I'll edit out. So one night the song Sail came on, like Sail.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was on, and I was mid to extremely drunk, and I was like, for whatever reason, the words that came out of my mouth were in the most horrific Midwest accent. And I turned to my friend. I'm like, oh my God, Sail. This is my favorite song by my favorite band, Imagine Dragons. If you've put this all together, you know that song is actually by AWOL Nation.
Yes.
I was just wasted.
Oh my God. That's
so
amazing.
Now it just comes out sometimes when like
Imagine Dragons.
Imagine Dragons. Wow, my favorite band. Yeah. So
That's incredible.
it was pretty bad. And it took me a good 5 minutes to realize that it was not Imagine Dragons. It was like 5 minutes later when I was like, oh my God, it was AWOL Nation. And then by that time, everybody's like, what the fuck are you talking about, though?
I mean, it's got kind of the same sort of tempo as, like, Believer, right?
It's time to begin. No, it doesn't.
It doesn't?
I mean, it might, as that song, but it doesn't
Sure.
have Imagine Dragons song types in it.
Well.
Radioactive.
Radioactive.
Like, there's that, and then there's like, Sail, da, 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 da. Like, they're different. They're very different.
Anyway, this has been the Songcast with Animorphs Anonymous.
This is a podcast within a podcast. If we started out on a Munch Squad note, this is where we are now.
I want it
Squad.
much. Anyway.
Okay, so, fuck. Jake dives down towards the roof, breaking speed limits to hit it, and at the last possible second, he slows down and slams into the roof, and he starts demorphing as fast as possible. Tobias is like, you are being a fucking idiot, but I will still cover your ass.
Oh, Tobias.
And Tobias is just super helpful in this book.
Tobias is the best in this book.
He truly is. And every book, one might argue.
Hashtag unbiased. Unbiased Tobias.
Unbiased Tobias, the best of all the biases.
Aw.
Anyways, Jake demorphs until his weight starts to slide him off the roof, and Tobias is like, you cannot fall there because Tom is looking directly out that window and will see you, half-bird, falling down. So Jake, in a Herculean effort, grabs the gutter and holds on.
Oh, God.
And Tobias is like, wait. Okay, Tom's turned away now. So Jake lets go of the gutter and thuds to the ground.
Jesus.
And runs around the house. I know, fucking reckless.
Off
this
the
kid.
roof?
Off the roof.
It's like a 2-story house. What the fuck?
I mean, maybe he still had hollow bird bones and only weighed like 50 pounds.
Oh, God.
I don't know. Who can tell? This is a 2-story cookie cutter suburban house, god damn it.
Yeah. Broken your leg.
He could just morph it off later.
That's true. Healing.
Yeah, so he thuds to the ground and goes running around the house, and he's like, hey, Dad, I'll take over watering the lawn. And Jake's dad is like, oh, what do you want now, Jake? Like, joking around with him. He's like, I just want you to get into the house. But he's like, I just want to get some fresh air. But in his head, I want you to get in the house. His dad finally starts moseying towards the front door, like, really slowly. But it's too late. Chapman and the gunman are right there. They roll down the window. The gun is being aimed. And then Jake just turns the hose on the side of the car, and it startles them enough that the gunman flinches and Chapman, like, freaks out, and Jake's dad makes it inside, and Jake is shaking, and, like, as they're driving off, Jake says something like, oh, hi, Mr. Chapman, pretending he just recognized him. So super close call, and then he turns around and sees Tom staring at him with hatred from the window.
Hatred!
Yeah. So we cut to the barn, where Marco, Cassie, Tobias, and Jake are meeting. Rachel and Axe are out doing surveillance, watching sort of duties, watching Jake's dad, that sort of thing. And Tobias tells them, and even Jake says, it was without blame, without pointing any fingers, what has happened over the past few days. And everybody is mad at Jake, including Cassie. They are super pissed, and they're like, what the fuck were you thinking? And Marco especially is extremely angry that he sent Axe and Tobias away without calling for backup. And he's going, you are too close to this. You are not making the right calls. And you are putting one person's life above everybody else's. And then he also says you are risking yourself for stupid reasons, which Cassie also seconds because she was saying he was risking himself by putting himself in the way of the gunman and being a fucking idiot. Mm-hmm. And my answer to that was, so, like, exactly the things that Cassie and Marco kind of struggled with in the past few books and previous books? Kind of like that, huh? Like, I don't know, dealing with killing your family, huh? Or putting, like, one person's life above everybody else's, Cassie. Or maybe, I don't know, putting the whole human race at risk because of exposure, Cassie.
Oh, my God.
So, anyways, I was like... These guys are mad because they have made their decisions and they know where their loyalties lie. And I guess they were just like, Jake isn't doing the thing that I would do, therefore I'm mad.
Well, maybe it's because they hold Jake to a different standard because he is the leader.
Yeah, for sure.
And
for sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. Although, so that's... I agree with that point. And then Marco tells him right after this, like, straight up, I wish that I were more like you. Like, saying, I wish I were more like you, Jake. And, like, I wish I could say I wouldn't kill my own mother, but I know now that I would and that you wouldn't. So he's like, I'm saying I wish I could be like that and be that compassionate and do that, but I can't. So you need to, like, you know, you can't make the call.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's so harsh.
It's super harsh, but like it's weird how it's harsh and it's really, it comes off as mean, but it is so caring in a way because Marco's saying, I can make that call to kill family members and friends. You are too close to it. You can't do that. You can't do what I can do. And Jake's like, you know, he's still saying, no, I can make the calls. I can do it. I can defend my father. But Marco's like, straight up, I don't want you to be in that situation. Yeah. Not only do I not want you to do it, and I don't think you can do it, I don't want you to have to do it. Yeah. Which is the same thing Jake did for him. Yeah. So. Yeah. And for whatever reason, Cassie doesn't say much, but is on Marco's side of Jake can't make this call, which... I'm sure there's a whole bunch of reasons, all of them having to do with Cassie really caring for him and, like, not wanting him to go through this, but... Yeah. Whatever.
It's kind of like their alliance again. Yeah. Yeah, their very recent alliance to, like, protect Jake at all costs.
Yeah. And I think that this is another way that they're, like, we want to emotionally protect you now. Like, this time, like, yeah, his life is at risk this time, but it's not, like, the same sort of stakes as in that Megamorphs book. It's more of a, like, we can't let you go there.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. This was the part where they were voting whether or not Jake could handle it. They said Axe, of course, won't vote. Rachel's on Jake's side. So Tobias is supposed to be this tiebreaker in this weird fucking argument they're having. Mm-hmm. But Tobias instead pulls a fully confusing way, comes from a different angle, and, like, says, hey, like, it doesn't matter whether or not Jake can make the call. We have to keep his dad from being a controller, because if Jake's dad becomes a controller, there's twice as much of a chance of Jake getting caught. There's way more danger, especially because it's his dad instead of his brother, and there will be people watching him go at all hours of the day and night, and they're, especially for Animorphs business, going to put them at risk. So it's not a choice of do we or don't we let his dad become a controller. It is how do we prevent this.
Go Tobias!
Yeah, Tobias just, like, saw the entire thing that was happening. Like, Marco saw the plan from A to B, like he talks about in his last book, but Tobias saw the bigger picture in this instance.
And earlier when he made that realization that, like, oh, nobody in my family cared about me, I think he saw in this moment that Jake's family does care about him and that his dad would be, like, watching him and paying attention. Oh, my God. Anyway. There's a mosquito in here.
That went somewhere I did not expect. Yeah, Tobias really comes through in this book. He's extremely observant and mature. Like, I don't know if it was just from Tobias being put in charge in the last book, but he's, like, in the last couple books just really come out of this shell almost.
Yeah, he's picking up the slack.
Yeah, he's really picking up the slack, and he's really putting himself out there, and, like, he's just being great.
I'm so proud of him.
Me too. But we can't be proud of him for too long, so we have to go through this really fucking awkward moment where Marco and Cassie reluctantly agree that Tobias is right, and they have to go on the offensive and create a distraction to draw people away from Jake's dad. They just need to draw the attention off of Tom, off of their dad, and onto something else. And Marco tries to smooth things over and say, like, hey man, nothing personal, I'm just, I have to protect the team. And he goes to, like, shake Jake's hand, and Jake just leaves him hanging there saying nothing.
Oh my God.
I know.
I love this, but I hate it as well.
Ugh.
Oh.
It's like, I don't want to say it's a power struggle, because it's not, like, a true power struggle. Like, Marco doesn't want to take over the Animorphs, but
yeah, it's not like
Marco,
it's not like a David thing at all.
Right. Exactly. It's nothing like that. It's Marco trying to say, like, you have to understand where I'm coming from, and say, like, hey, I see what you're trying to do, and, like, Marco just trying to extend that olive branch, and Jake just being like, you overstepped your boundaries, you need to fucking back off.
Yeah.
Oh,
and they're best friends.
And they're best friends.
And there's, like, no time to be best friends in this moment.
There's not, but also think about how, like, Jake is having such trouble being a leader, but even in that moment, Jake doesn't yell at Marco because he knows that will just make his situation worse. Instead, he just does this slight that, like, Marco, you can almost feel the shift where, like, Marco's now, like, on, like, kind of on his heels, like, oh fuck, I fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so many good things from this one moment. Oh, man.
Oh.
Yeah. And then Marco tries to talk, and Jake just cuts him off and says, I have a plan.
I have a plan.
I don't think he did have a plan. He just kind of starts coming up with a plan on the fly. He's like, emotions can really help you sometimes, because he really just wanted to piss off Marco in this moment.
Oh my God.
Yeah, their plan is they're going to kidnap Chapman.
Yay!
Yeah, fuck it.
This'll go well.
Yeah, I like it's the type of crazy distraction we need. And Marco's like, yeah, all right, that would work. The Yerks would abandon helping Tom to go after Chapman. But this plan is fucking nuts.
And Rachel would love it.
Yeah, and Rachel would love it. Sure enough, she does. Like, they fly over to Jake's house to pick up Rachel on the way and leave Cassie, because Cassie and Tobias are going to guard Jake's dad. So Jake, Rachel, Marco, and Axe are flying out, and when Jake relays this plan to Rachel, she just goes, cool! Because she's the best.
Yep.
So, anyways, they fly out by Chapman's house, and there is an empty lot across the street. I assume probably the same one as before, where they did the whole Fluffer McKitty mission.
Oh, Fluffs. Yep.
Oh, Fluffs McKits. That's... I know Drew's cat. You know, you remember Drew from Megamorphs 2 in the Time of the Dinosaur,
I do.
Listeners. And his cat, who is the most gorgeous, hilarious cat.
Great.
She's great. She has started waiting by the door every time she knows it's time for him to go to work so that he can't get out.
Oh, that's so cute.
She's so great.
Oh.
But I only refer to her as Fluffer McKitty every time.
She's very fluffy.
She is very fluffy. So, anyways, that's my story about Fluffer McKitty. They are in this abandoned lot, and they start morphing in the bushes. And Marco goes to gorilla, Rachel goes grizzly, Jake goes rhino, and Axe goes to human, but, like, weirdly stops the morph partway through, so, like, his features are, like, really, like, messed up, and they say it reminds them of Quasimodo without the hump.
So was skeptical as to how this would have worked. I feel like he has, like, a slight blue furry tinge.
Yeah, and, like, his nose would be, like... Well, I could see why his nose, like, why I'd say it was really wide, because of, like, the way the Andalite face is, like, where his nose would come from.
So...
I could see why.
So, can he, like, freeze parts of the morph and, like, morph other parts of him? Like, because you can't control what starts first, so if your face started first... Could you be like, okay, freeze the nose, freeze the mouth, and then, like, work on my tail? Like, how does that work?
I think it's gotta be, like, just them getting better at it, right? Like how Cassie could control which parts of her body morph, so she could get those, like, huge wings. I know, but they're all getting good at morphing. Like, Marco did the whole truck driver gorilla thing in, like,
yeah, that's right,
book
in the cow book.
Not that long ago. Yeah, the cow book. Like, I think they're all just getting better at this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll buy it.
That's my argument. I'll buy it. I don't love it, but I'll buy it.
It's not my favorite thing.
It's not the best thing that there is, but I will take it.
Cool.
Yeah, so he has weird distorted features. And Jake is really, like, feeling the lack of Tobias here as they try to go across the street as all of these weird animals and then, like, hide by Chapman's house.
They're all huge. How can they do this?
Yeah, they're all gigantic, and I don't know. What do I know? Yeah, so they go over there, and the whole plan is for Axe to go knock on the doors, and when Chapman answers, Axe is like, I would like to speak to Melissa, please, about a school assignment. And then he, like, adds on at the end, because we are friends and classmates, this is a perfectly reasonable request.
A wonderful boy.
He is a wonderful boy. And, like, Chapman just sighs like he's been suffering for so long, and he goes to get Melissa. And it gives Axe a moment to kind of, like, look past him and scope out the security features in the house. Like, oh yeah, he's got, like, some chameleon shit and, like, Draken beams and a statue, and, like, God only knows. But yeah, Melissa soon shows up at the door and is like, who the fuck? But then Marco reaches over the side of the porch and grabs her, covering her mouth. They get her tied up and set aside very quickly.
Oh,
yeah.
I feel so bad for her.
Yeah. As soon as Melissa was taken aside, Jake veers out from hiding and, as a rhino, charges down the front door. smashing it to fucking pieces.
Oh.
He immediately gets hit by the Draken beams that are in the security statue, and it gets in 2 shots before he tramples it. Miss Chapman is in the kitchen. She yells "Andalites," and then fires a Draken beam that she has in the kitchen, I guess, right into Jake's face. And it burns a hole through his head right into his brain.
Jesus.
And he is like, I am very badly hurt. Yeah, Rachel charges in. She was charging in behind Jake and knocks Miss Chapman into a kitchen wall, which just knocks her out. Axe joins the fray soon after as an Andalite, and he sees Chapman going upstairs. Jake's like, nope, give him time. We need him to sound the alarm. So, like, Jake counts to 10 and then says, okay, go after him. So Axe and Marco do. Chapman reappears by the top of the stairs with a gun, and Marco is nearby. He shoots Marco point blank, who just drops. And then Chapman leaps over Marco, goes to take off outside. Axe, I guess, jumps out of a second-story window, landing hard in the grass, and starts following Chapman. And Jake makes a split-second call where he's like, Rachel, you go get Marco. Axe and I are off after Chapman. So Chapman's, like, running off and has a gun still. And he's, like, jumping fences, making it out of the backyard. Chapman turns around, fires several bullets at Jake, and he lands them in his skull. Jake is very badly hurt, but he uses his rage about his dad almost being gunned down earlier to power through and winds up charging through the fence that Chapman's trying to climb and knocking him over. So Chapman is, like, on, like, just standing there, like, getting up off the ground, like, confused and knocked about and everything. And Jake gets ready to charge and kill him. Rachel emerges from the house and yells for Axe to stop him. Axe is like, oh, fucking how? He's a rhino. But it doesn't really matter because Jake starts charging down Chapman, is about to kill him, and then his injuries overtake him and something snaps. His legs just go out from under him and he falls down, sliding to a stop a few feet away. At this point, Axe nimbly hops over, knocks Chapman out with the flat of his tail blade, and there you have it. Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, it's not great.
No.
Jake demorphs, so he doesn't die. And they can hear Melissa crying for her parents nearby, and they can also hear the sounds of sirens.
Oh, poor Melissa.
I know. She's, like, literally just like, Mommy, Daddy, what the fuck?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I feel bad for her. Yeah, so Axe has hopped off ahead, but Marco can easily pick up Chapman. He demorphed and remorphed inside, by the way. He mentions that, so his injuries were gone. Okay, so Marco easily picks up Chapman, and they move towards the nearby empty house where Axe has already disabled the security system and left the door open. Chapman is unconscious. They tie him up and tie him to a chair. They blindfold him, and then Jake's like, all right, let's wake him up. So he grabs a coffee can, fills it with water, and splashes it in Chapman's face. Chapman wakes up, like, spluttering, like, blah, blah, what the fuck? And so now Axe has to play the part of an Andalite warrior interrogating the Yeerk. And the only reason that Axe is doing this is to keep up this weird charade they have going on. Like, he could actually interrogate him for helpful information, but it is just to keep up their weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jake and Rachel and Marco stay for a moment while Axe starts doing this, and he starts, like, asking him questions and threatening him and saying he's gonna, like, you know, do all sorts of crazy fucking torture shit to him. And then he starts talking about starving out the Yeerk with Kandrona starvation. And Jake leaves at this time because Jake, of course, knows what it's like to go through that. And he starts imagining his own brother going through it when they're out of town. And at this point, Jake is like, Marco and everybody won't even need to vote after this. I'm not going to be the leader of the Animorphs for much longer. Like, how could anybody support me when I have asked for this?
Oh my god.
I know. Brutal.
Yeah.
So Jake tries to catch a few hours of sleep. He leaves Tobias on watch outside of his window, but he can't get to sleep because shit is too cray. So he gets up and creeps around his house, and he starts checking in on everybody. So he goes to check in on his dad, who's sleeping and looks okay. Then he goes to check Tom's room, and it's empty. And he's like, okay, he probably snuck out to look for Chapman, and Tobias just didn't tell me about it. So, cool. So Jake gets back into bed, tries to sleep for a few more hours, and then Tobias says, hey man, if you're sleeping, get up because Tom's getting home. So, at that point, Jake's like, okay, Tom's home, and flies out to check on Axe and Chapman. And when he gets to the house where they're holding Chapman, he finds a very, very angry Axe. Axe, just right off the bat, goes, I will not be doing anything like this again. This is not honorable. This is just... He's just so mad. He's like, I've heard Melissa walking around the neighborhood crying for her father all night. And he tells Jake, if we meet on the battlefield, I will fight him in an honorable way in combat. I will even kill him, but I will not do this again because this is not right.
Oh,
yeah.
My son.
I know.
But I love this scene. I love how he got mad at Jake and he's starting to doubt him. Like, that's just,
Yeah. And even, so... The next moment of this is Jake's like, I understand, Axe. I understand why you feel this way, but I wouldn't ask you to do this if it weren't important. And Axe goes, is this important to the war effort, or is this as important to you? And Jake can't answer. He's like, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's important to me or the war. And then in the next moment, Axe tells him that because they now have to let Chapman go, not only does this affect, like, what Axes have to do, like, not only is this dishonorable, not only is this hurtful, but now, on top of everything else, because Chapman's about to escape the Andalite, this is going to be repeated often in Yerk lore, and Axe's name is now synonymous with foolish.
Oh.
And it, like, Axe already took the fall with the Andalites for his brother for giving these humans the morphing technology. Like, how much more shit can you put Axe through?
Oh, I love him so much. Oh, sucks. It all sucks. I'm so mad at Jake.
It does all suck. But you're right. Like, I loved this scene. I love that Axe did all of this. Like, I love that he was angry. I love that he turned back to him and said, you're not acting correctly, and I will never do this again, just so you know. Like, especially
because Jake is his prince and he will do whatever his prince says, but like now he's drawing the line and I'm just like,
yeah. And he never drew that line when he sat with Rachel and trapped David.
Yeah,
he never said that. He and Rachel kind of had that weird moment where they talked about it, didn't talk about it at the end of that book.
Yeah.
But he never got mad and he never did this. And this is the moment where Axe is like, you are completely out of line asking me this.
It's just another condition of this war, like, wearing on them, and this is how it's wearing on Axe. Axe is finally starting to draw those boundaries.
Yeah.
On the one hand, I'm just like, good for you, baby, good for you. But it's not.
It's kind of the first conversation that we have that they then very overtly shove in our faces later of the good versus evil, where, like, Axe is like, he's a good guy that's willing to do some evil things in the name of good, but there's, you know, it's not black and white. There's so much gray, but Axe is saying this is the moment where it is inappropriate for me. And we've seen Cassie do this. We've seen Rachel do this with David. We've seen a lot of the other characters go through this, but Axe has never had this moment to say, this is my boundary until now.
Yeah.
So, it was such a good moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then again, just taking the hit once again. Taking the hit for his brother, taking the hit for Jake, like...
Everybody just walks over him, and he always gets in.
They do.
And he always has to be the one who shows himself, and...
He does, but, like, the whole other part of this that's so, I guess, impressive to me is, like, Axe is so willing to give up everything to do the right thing. Like, to protect his friends, to protect his brother, to protect his prince. Mm-hmm. He's willing to, like, look like the fool all of the time. Like, I don't know. That just knowing Andalite society, that's such an impressive quality to me. Like, it's almost more impressive than anything Jake has ever done as a leader.
Yeah. And just being from such a different background as the others, and how he knows he's going to be received after the war is over. And he's not gonna belong to the Andalites anymore, because he's like too involved with the humans, and he's not gonna have like a place. And I hate it.
Well, even if he did go back there and somehow, like, you know, get in with the Andalites again and, like, you know, assimilate back into their culture, they are so unaccepting of anybody who's ever fucked up, and he has on the books fucked up 3 or 4 times, even though it's never been his fault.
Yeah.
Ugh. Axe giving up everything. Fuck everybody else giving up everything. Axe is the real guy giving up everything. Like, yeah, Marco killed his mom. Big fucking deal.
Jesus. So much baggage, and I hate it.
Yeah. I hate it, but I was so happy that Axe got mad.
Yeah, I did too.
So. Yeah, anyways, I guess we'll continue, because we could just talk about how good Axe is forever.
The Axe cast.
The Axe cast. Axacast. The Anna Axe pod Axe cast Axe. Axe cast? There we go. Anyways, Axe has to play this terrible Andalite warrior that is threatening Chapman. And in this final acting moment, he includes Jake so that Jake has to listen to what he's saying. And he's basically telling Chapman, like, let me know what I want to know, or I'll kill you. I'll leave you to die of Kandrona starvation, and your host body's hunger will also affect you. And he tells Chapman, like, the choice is yours. And Chapman apparently will still not give any information. So Axe says fine, and then crunches over that glass again to let Chapman know that there's glass there to cut his bonds. And then Axe goes in and morphs to Osprey, takes off, and they head back home. Axe asks Jake when they will be leaving, and Jake goes like noon tomorrow, but Jake's like, I have a plan that only involves me. Only I will have to kill Tom, and none of the other Animorphs will get involved. I don't know why Jake thought he had to add that, but he did. I don't know.
This is my burden.
This is my burden alone. So Jake faces this 8-hour car ride to his Grandpa G's cabin, and their dad initially tries to engage them with forced questions, but both he and Tom are just like not having it. So their dad's like, I give up, and then Jake falls asleep until they stop to get some burgers and french fries that were terrible, and then they continue on their way to the cabin. Finally, they turn onto a gravel driveway deep in the woods, and as they're crunching up the drive, a mouse scurries out in front of their car, only to be caught by a hawk. And then they make some comment like survival of the fittest. They pull up to the house, everybody is fussed over and fed, and then they sit them on the back porch to relax after their long, difficult drive. And Jake's mom makes a comment like, I just can't believe Grandpa G isn't here anymore. He loved this place. And Tom makes some sort of asinine reply about how, yeah, he loved it because he loved to get away because some people can't handle war.
Wow.
And everybody's like, Tom,
everyone's like, excuse you?
Really, Tom? Really? And, like, Tom's like, that was a stupid comment. I don't know why I said it. And everybody's like, oh, okay, we'll just let it go. Yeah, seriously, Tom.
Wow, that was a little bit obvious.
Yeah. Jake is still watching and waiting for Tom to make a move. Okay, here we go. Into 2 chapters that are a little difficult to get through. So Jake and Tom are upstairs in this room where they will be sharing this weird room. And Jake starts going through Grandpa G's footlocker and kind of reminiscing about the one time out of two that they heard stories about the war and how brutal it was. And Jake starts trying to, like, jog Tom's memory. Like, do you remember when he told us about how brutal the war was? Do you remember about the specific battle? And then it finally leads to him telling Tom the story about how the soldiers, and he said foxholes. It is trenches. The soldiers in the trenches started singing Silent Night on Christmas Eve, and both of the sides could hear each other across this no man's land, and so they started singing together in English and German. And it created this famous night of temporary truce where all of the soldiers came out to no man's land and started sharing cigarettes and stories and whatever provisions they had. And it was a very strange night. And they suspect as many as 2/3 of the entire population of soldiers in this war actually participated in this weird overnight truce. This is in real life. I was a little confused on this, though, because that happened in World War I, and it seemed like everything else that we are hearing is World War II.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It was a little weird. I couldn't quite figure out which one his great-grandpa is in, but it would make sense, being a kid in the 90s, that his great-grandfather would be World War I and his grandfather would be World War II.
I guess so.
Like, there's a lot of age in here. Like, there's a lot of play in these ages that we could really argue about, but I guess it is possible. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's interesting, though.
It was interesting. It's the next thing that happens is, like, Tom doesn't take the bait on any of that, but he does notice a dagger in the footlocker, and he snags it, he pulls it out. It's a Nazi dagger. It's stamped with SS on it. And I'm pretty sure that is a World War II thing, not a World War I thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
the Nazis were...
Not that... Yeah, the Nazis were there, but they weren't as big as a faction. Like, it's not something you'd immediately take and think, oh, this is a World War I thing, because that was more fought between different peoples. Yes, the Nazis were still involved, but that was a very kind of different war. So anyways, I don't know that, or if they were trying to kind of play with the details and mush them all together into World War II, because they said, like, foxholes, because there wasn't as much trench warfare in World War II. I don't know.
I don't know.
This is a very confusing thing. But the actual story, that's just, I don't know, for anyone who doesn't know this, I assume most people do, but that makes an ass out of you and me, so I'll go ahead and explain it. That's the Christmas night truce was an actual thing that happened in World War I, and it was pretty astonishing to everybody that was involved. And then the reason that this story has always stuck out to me so much, and I think applied to this book more than anything else, is because after that truce where they came out and laughed together and had a great time and shared food and story and song and this night of comfort amongst this war that was so horrific and was just brutal in every way, with people starving and freezing and, you know, the countries not being able to feed their troops. Those guys met together in the middle, had that one night, and then separated and started killing each other the next day. Like, the people that they just had dinner with, they then went and shot right afterwards. Like, it's this insane story.
Yeah.
Like, it's true, and it's just so crazy. So, like, it not to say that something that profound is as important as a children's book, but there are echoes of this, I think, all over Animorphs, of Jake dealing with his brother and having these moments where it's somebody that you shared a lot with, and then you have to fight them. Like, I just think that was a really interesting parallel between the two.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'll stop bitching about war and move on down. I don't know. I read All Quiet on the Western Front recently, and it just really kind of...
I don't know.
I mean, I knew about the story long before that, but that really kind of solidified World War I in my mind for me.
Sure.
But anyways, Jake starts talking about how his grandpa was a really... great-grandpa, sorry, was a really honorable man, and how he was very focused on, you know, propriety and honor and doing the right thing. And Tom just is, like, brutal to Jake. He's just like, you're a child. None of this matters. Nothing about good or honorable matters until after you win the battle. Only the winners talk about that shit.
He's just, like, straight up being a yerk right now.
He is. Like, he's not... the yerk isn't even trying to be
they're having
Tom.
a face-to-face conversation right now, and it's really jarring.
It is. It's especially jarring because it really feels like a physical change of, oh, Tom, the whole facade of Tom is dropped. Mm-hmm. This is just, you are talking to the enemy right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's like, you know, talking about like, you do whatever it takes to get done. And Jake I think Jake immediately realizes what's going on, and he tries not to give anything away while still trying to get through to Tom, saying like, you know, good people might do evil things, but that doesn't make them evil. And Tom just keeps mocking him and saying, like, you don't know anything. You're a child. You're such a, like, you don't know shit. You're just a baby. You don't know right from wrong. Everything's black and white to you. You don't understand that there's, you know, gray. And Jake in his head is going like, of course I understand that, but I'm not going to tell him that. And then eventually after their fight kind of peters out, they go back to their separate beds, and Jake compares it to like, these are our separate foxholes.
Yeah. Metaphors!
So, metaphors. Then, because it wasn't quite pounded into our heads hard enough, Jake falls asleep into a fitful dream where he's hiding in a trench, freezing. Again, I think they say foxhole. I'm correcting it. It would be trench. He's wondering if he has ever been warm or ever eaten a warm meal. And then he starts interacting with the other soldiers in his dreams. And it's Christmas night. They say they can hear singing, you know, from the enemy lines. And this talk is interrupted by a soldier coughing. And Jake goes, oh, it's pneumonia most likely. He should be evacuated, but no one's taken away now. And then he tells the old joke, like, even if you die, you have to be back at the front in 3 days. And this kid that's coughing asks Jake to write the letter for him when he dies. And Jake's like, what? And he's like, oh, I know that's not how it normally goes, but, you know, you know me. I want you to tell my parents that I died, not somebody that's never met me. And Jake says something like, I'm not the postal service. You can mail, or you can tell them yourself when you get home. And the kid just replies, Merry Christmas. And then Jake says something back to him like, I think I can hear the enemy singing now too. And that's when this guy named Matthews says, Yerks don't sing, and then appears at Jake's side and plunges the Nazi dagger into his heart. And Jake wakes up gasping, realizing Tom's gone and so is the dagger. So, Jake pulls on some sweatpants and rushes downstairs. He can see his mother down there, but no Tom, and his father is gone as well. So he sneaks out of the cabin, and he can see them on the dock with their feet in the water, having a heart-to-heart conversation where Tom is apologizing about his behavior. But Jake can also see, when Tom moves, the glint of the dagger in his back pocket, and Jake realizes he has to act right now to save his dad. So he starts stalking down towards them, morphing to Tiger as fast as he can, and knowing that he will have to kill Tom, because Tom will piece together who he is if he doesn't eliminate him. Suddenly, the entire dock collapses and folds up like an accordion on itself. Jake's dad is, like, you know, dipped into the water over there, and Tom is kind of separated, then splashing down to the water. The dock is completely ruined, and then they see Jake's dad getting dragged under the water. He's, like, kind of bobbing under and getting dragged further and further away. And then they see a fin appear above the water, and Jake is kind of like, a fin in a mountain lake? What could this possibly be?
A dolphin in my mountain lake?
Not my mountain lake. Yeah. So Tom's like turning in the water, trying to keep his eye on where their dad is going, but their dad's being dragged away, and then Tom gets hit in the back, slammed into the boards of the dock, and gets knocked out fucking cold. Jake wants to run to Tom, knowing that the tiger could swim and get to him, but Jake freezes. And then somebody orders him to demorph because he's out in the open, and he's just relieved that somebody is telling him what to do, so he starts following the orders and demorphing. He realizes then that his entire team is here to back him up, and eventually his dad makes it to shore, but he had been dragged like way far down the lake and had to like swim up there. And Jake has already run down over to where Tom is. Somebody pushed him up towards the shore, but Jake drags him out the last few feet and sits next to him. And it's at that point that Jake notices that Tom's leg is completely messed up. Like, there is an extra joint where there should not be a joint. And so Jake starts yelling to call for an ambulance. And Tom looks at him, and this is a moment where we see Tom more than the Yerk. And Tom starts warning him to get away, like, get away from me, get out of here. And Jake refuses. Jake says, I'm gonna stay by your side. And he does until the medevac helicopter appears.
Brother, my brother.
Oh my God, no. No. Sorry. How dare you?
I'm sorry, I had to.
I'm moving on from that.
Fine.
The next morning, Jake's dad gets a phone call from Jake's mom, and it's recapped to us that Tom had to be medevaced to the hospital because there was a complex break in his leg, and they needed specialty stuff by their house to fix it. And they're like, wow, what a coinky-dink. That's crazy. So the adults go to get coffee, and Jake goes outside. And after a moment, he makes his hand gesture like, well? And Tobias is like, yeah, we're right over here. So he walks over, and his whole team is, like, waiting just off in the woods for him. And they explain how they did everything. Cassie went to whale, and she, had to go break the dock without getting beached. And Rachel and Axe went to dolphin, and the Chi were the medevac guys, and also, I guess, covering for the Animorphs who had been living in a shitty abandoned hunting cabin, and everybody's mad except for Tobias, who's just been gorging himself on rats that they found there. And also Axe is extremely pleased about the very large spiders they found in there. It's a whole thing.
Oh my God.
It's like Rachel's like, we needed a vacation anyway. Like, everybody is pleased that they are in this cabin, but no more so than Axe and Tobias. They are the most pleased.
Oh.
But yeah, so they're explaining the whole thing to them. And then how the Chi took, they were the medevac guys, and they brought Tom back home, and so he could be by the Yerks and have his leg fixed and blah, blah, blah. Finally, Jake asks where Marco is. And Cassie's like, well, he didn't think that you would want to see him right away. And so Jake calls him out, and he's not far away behind some trees. And that's about when Jake takes him aside and says, like, hey, if I'm ever losing it again or getting, too close to the situation to make these calls. And Marco interrupts him and says, you'll kick my ass? And Jake kind of laughs. He goes, no, I'll listen to you, and then I'll kick your ass. And so, like, they have this moment where, like, they are friends again, but then Jake starts asking, like, so wait, like, what was your plan if Tom didn't expose himself? Because, like, you needed to get to Tom no matter what. How would you have gotten to Tom, like, in there? And Marco's like, well, we knew that we had an objective, and it was that we couldn't let you die, and we couldn't let your dad die because we knew you'd lose it if your dad died, so we had to protect both of you. And eventually his explanation leads into how the only expendable person in Marco's plan was Tom. And then Marco starts to talk about how they would have eliminated Tom, and Jake stops him and he goes, I don't need to know this part of the plan. And that's when Jake realizes, like, this is now the conversation that he has with his best friend. It's not like who would win in a fight, Batman or Superman, or whether cheese tastes yellow or green, or what girl has a crush on them. It is now a conversation about how he would kill his brother.
Whee!
Yeah. So, that's their moment of levity. because we end the book on this chapter that starts at the wake on Sunday and goes through the funeral on Monday, and how Jake cried during the funeral, and the Nazi dagger was lost in the lake. They didn't try to retrieve it. Jake's grandmother gave him his Grandpa G's medals from the war, his like Purple Heart and something or other. And he said he wanted Jake to have them. So Jake then has this inner turmoil where he contemplates how he understands a lot more about Grandpa G now that he's in this secret war, and the whole reluctance to talk about the war. And Jake says that if they ever get out of this, he doesn't think that he will talk about the war all that often because he doesn't want to relive it. And the whole reason that his great-grandpa didn't display these medals was because they reminded him of the horrible things that had happened to him and that he had done. And Jake thinks that if there are ever medals for people fighting this war against the Yeerks, he won't want to display them either. And he ends on the note of thinking about how one day he may need a footlocker as well.
Yay!
That is this book.
Was this a really short book, or was it just me?
Oh my god, it took so long, though!
No, I know, but like, I feel like I tore through it, and it didn't feel like it was really that long. I just like sped through it.
I agree that it felt like a very short book. And the chapters were, I think, even shorter than usual.
Okay.
Like, they were very quick, but there was so much jam-packed into every chapter that it took me forever to write the notes. But if I was just straight reading, yes. Like, the page count was, I think, similar. It was like 138, and normally we're in like the low 140s, 150s. Okay. But yeah, it just felt shorter. There was just a lot more space. Yeah. But man, did it go through a lot.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Jake's books are just so tragic. Like, I mean, they're all tragic, but Jake's is always, I don't know. There's like a different flavor to them.
Yeah, it's like that, because he's the leader, we feel the extra weight of that responsibility when we read his books.
He was not a good leader in this book, though.
He wasn't, and he was. Like, he wasn't making the right calls, he wasn't thinking things through, but in the moments where he still had to use that gut reaction, he was still good when he did that.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't really making a lot of good calls in the Jungle Book either, but that was more kind of like inexperienced. This was more deliberate, kind of.
Emotion. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that this book came right after the Marco book, though. Just like the comparison of how they reacted respectively just was like, oh, that was genius.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love that it came right after that book, and I love that it was so radically different from how Marco acted his whole book and how Marco thought about everything.
Yeah.
But I also really appreciated that there was a lot of echoes of Cassie's choice too. Like I didn't talk about it a lot in my notes, but there's a lot of times where they contemplate, why are we valuing the life of your dad, one person, over the entire world? And like, that was something that Cassie actually said, like, how can we value him over everyone else? And it's like, well, Cassie, when you made this decision before, like, you valued one life over everybody too. And it's almost because she's struggling with it, she puts the question to Jake and gets mad at him when he can't answer either. Yeah. So there's a lot of those little echoes. And Tobias has a few moments like that too, where Tobias gets really kind of harsh when Jake is being self-deprecating. And that was interesting to see, because that's Tobias's hallmark usually, right? Like, he's very self-deprecating. So it's almost like there's so much pressure coming from Jake's dad and Tom and that situation, there was just as much pressure coming from his friends and his teammates and how they felt about things too.
Yeah.
And it was just, it made everything ramp up to be this extremely emotional, fast-paced book. Man, yeah, it was intense.
Yeah.
Ugh. So do you have any other thoughts, or do you want to skip into character ratings here?
Let's go rate some characters.
All right. Well, Jake.
God. I don't know. He just made so many bad calls.
Yeah.
He was so mean to his friends. I don't know. I loved him and I didn't love him at the same time. I was just like, I wanted to just shake him and be like, why can't you see?
I think that's what all of his friends wanted to do too.
Yeah. But like everything he did, I also just understand so much. I don't know. 3.5.
All right. I'm going to give him a 4. Which may be the first time I've ever rated Jake higher than you have. Yeah, I mean, I agree. He made a lot of bad calls, but everything he did was understandable.
Yeah.
And I loved the moments towards the end where he was trying to get through to Tom, which we've seen him do before, but he was doing it in such a different way than we've ever seen. Like, I really appreciated that with his growth and with how he's changed. He's now trying to relate to Tom, and it's going to be totally unsuccessful, right? Because it's like a guy that came back from war and is trying to reconnect with like his kids, but doesn't have the vocabulary anymore. But that's Jake going to Tom. And like, I just love those extra layers that are added to that aspect. So that gives him an extra half point for me. Okay, Rachel.
Not really in this book, but a solid player.
Yeah, not
so
really.
4.
I'm giving her a 5 because she was so fucking mad about those packages.
She's your favorite.
Also, she's my favorite. I just really liked that whole like package rage she had going on that was never mentioned.
Priorities.
Yeah, but again, like not in this book, really. What about Tobias?
5. Oh my god. Just such a good boy.
5 for me.
Oh.
Yeah, he did great. Absolutely great in this book. So, and I'm really proud of him, as we talked about earlier, for just stepping into this role, not of a leader, but just kind of coming out of his shell and taking on responsibilities and just, yeah.
Oh.
It's good. All right, Axe.
Oh my god. Oh, 5. Because he did the bad thing and he didn't want to, and he told Jake to fuck off, and I loved it.
Yeah, 5. He knew that he was angry and he expressed it.
When will you learn? Your actions have consequences. Oh god. Anyway.
Marco. Nope, sorry. Cassie first, then Marco. Cassie's not really in this book either.
Yeah, she kind of had the smallest role in this book. How the fuck did she turn into a whale in a lake?
She's in a stream. I don't know.
I don't know if I bought that. Like, 20 feet, that's like... A sperm whale is like... Or maybe... Does she do humpback? I don't remember. Oh, she doesn't have the sperm whale. So she did humpback.
Yeah, she is humpback.
Okay. I guess that could have happened. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. And we also don't know, like, how deep the lake was. Because there's that point, like, 20 feet out where lakes drop off to, like, 40 feet deep all of a sudden.
Yeah, true. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know.
Well, she wasn't really in this book, but
yeah.
I like that she was able to pull the whale thing off. 3.25.
I'm going to give her a 2 because I like some of the stuff she pulled off in this book, but she was the one that I thought the ghostwriter got the least correct. Like, her tone wasn't right, so I'm dinging her for that. I don't know. I feel like I would argue that I shouldn't do that because that's not Cassie's fault. It's the ghostwriter's fault, but then...
Yeah, God, Cassie.
That's
Get your tone correct.
way to argue. So I don't know what I just said. Did I say 3 or 2? I think I said 2. Yeah, I'll stick by my 2.
Okay.
All right, Marco.
I think Marco gets a 5.
Yeah.
For just taking all that and having to make hard calls and ugh.
Yeah.
Ah!
He did so good. He did so good in this book.
Ugh. Hate them all.
Oh my God.
I love them all.
He did. And like he has this newfound edge to him that I love.
Oh, it's just something broke inside that boy and I'm just so sad.
Yeah, it's depressing, but man, it's compelling.
Mm.
Ugh.
I'm gonna cry. No crying.
No crying.
No crying.
All right. We rated them. We rated them good.
Yeah.
We did it.
I'm
man.
losing steam a little bit.
I know, me too. It's just this book is just so depressing.
It is.
Oh, well, any last thoughts or should we wrap this guy up?
Wrap it.
All right. If you want to tell us about how World War I and World War II were different, you can email us at anonymousanimorphs@gmail.com. And if you want to post it for the world to see, you can go on Facebook and find us at Animorphs Anonymous. Or join our super secret, super awesome group, the Andalite Bandalites, which is facebook.com/group/Animorphs Anonymous. If you want to look at pictures that I make that are real dumb, those are on Instagram at Animorphs Anonymous. If you want to go on Twitter, you can do that. It's at Animorphs Anon.
Twitter has not been updated for like 3 months. I'm so sorry.
But I did the other day make this really lonely post from my account, which I realized I've only retweeted things for the past like 2 years. And I was like, here's a unique tweet. Check out my podcast. Anyways, that's us.
And we have a website. animorphsanonymous.com.
Yeah, that hasn't been updated in forever. I'll work on that one day.
Someday.
Anyways, Kaycie, where can they find us?
They can find us wherever podcasts are available, including but not limited to iTunes, Google Play, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, Spotify, you name it. It's happening. There we are.
Yeah.
Boom.
Tell me about your comic.
I have a web comic. It is called B-Side You. It's about music and romance. It's really, really cute. And you can find that at bsideyoucomic.com. That's BSIDEYOU comic.com. Please read it. I love you. Dabs.
And it's not nearly as awesome as all of our singing was throughout this podcast. But it does have similar notes. I'm kidding. It's way better. Our singing's real bad. We gotta work on that.
Yeah, I apologize. It's not a karaoke podcast.
I don't apologize. Fuck that. We're putting our talents out for the worlds to hear.
Talent agents were available to sing for you.
At anonymousanimorphs@gmail.com.
Dear God.
Oh, shit.
Oofta.
All right. I am so excited for the next book.
Oh, God.
And I will not tell you why.
Is it because it's Rachel?
I mean, that's part of it.
Is this the Starfish book? She just cackles.
It might be.
It might be. Okay.
Okay, well, shit. Let me awkwardly starfish away to the next book.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Goodbye. I'm starfishing. Goodbye.
Goodbye.